Aloha, everybody. This is Tiggy Maximus with Tiggy Maximus Talks, episode 92 on YouTube. I want to get on here quickly. This is mostly about comedy shows. Um, Before I get into it, I'd like to thank all you guys for watching and listening to all these episodes. This podcast on YouTube and for the podcast of the same name, Tiggy Maximus Talks on Spotify. If you haven't done so already, please like, follow um, the podcast. I believe you can do likes on Spotify for all the episodes that you come upon, or you can also just like these videos on the podcast on YouTube. So anything is appreciated. Remember to subscribe, follow, or like the episodes, the podcast. And on Spotify, there is a link. If you guys feel like you want to donate some money to my podcast, anything is appreciated. Um, so with that out of the way, uh, so I did go to a comedy show. I went to one on Saturday. Um, it was out in Temecula. Great venue actually. The place is called Shooters Temecula. Um, there had to be at least 20 or so pool tables, which is pretty cool. They are all spaced out and great setup. And what's cool is that they have one of those power punch out machines that will measure how much force or how powerful your punch is if you punch the sensor, which is usually just a what looks like a boxing bag, but it's held up by a stick. And if you hit it, it'll go up and it'll start rotating through the numbers, and it'll keep going higher and higher until it'll slow down to a certain number that will tell you the how powerful your punch is. Um, I think the world record is set by Francis Ngannou. I'm not even gonna try to say the number because it's pretty big. Um, but they do have that machine. I've seen it before. It was actually at my company's lunch before, out in the parking lot. So, um, I don't remember doing it, much less registering a score. So maybe someday, if I ever see it again, I want to see how powerful my punch is. um, I guess it makes sense to punch straight and as opposed to just throw all your might into like a loop and punch. So, anywho, so in Temecula at the Shooters Bar in Temecula, um, it was Pman's birthday show. Pman, aka Pierre Turner. I've seen the guy quite a few times now. It's always a joy to see his comedy set. I even had the pleasure of getting to meet his wife. She's super cool. Um, so, ooh, ooh, ooh. The show was pretty great. Um, we had quite a few like somewhat MCs or hosts before the show really started. I believe there's a lady by the name of Sherry E. I believe she was a good friend of P Man's and she was one of the MC's hosts. But I think she only went up like one time though. Um, like the scenery in the back. Um, and then there was like the actual like host MC. I believe his name was Mac Rome. But then there was also a special guest. His name was Daryl Doc Carter. Um, this is actually the first time I've ever seen him, much less heard of him. And I got to talk to him and got a picture with him after the show. But he was a major influence on some of these comedians who knew about Doc Carter, Errol Doc Carter. Uh, so yeah. Um, so Mac Rome started things off as host, and he actually got to do a stand up. From what I can remember, I think he was an 8 out of 10 for his stand up. First time seeing the guy live. Uh, Next, he brought up, I believe it was Chuck Myers. He's a nurse, and I think I've seen him before. I think I saw him at the mic drop. Um, so I thought that was pretty cool. Although I felt that his jokes, it hit with some people in the crowd, but it wasn't like all the time. And you will hear me say that a few times about a lot of comics, if that's really the case. Um, Plus, it was never fully silent, so people were talking during the set. So yeah, you noticed that. Oh, by the way, I actually got to sit next to Chris Williams, producer, host, comic. Chris Williams. Nice to get reacquainted with the guy again. He actually asked me what my name was. He knew who I was. It's just that he had to ask what my name was. So it's been a while. Um, I think I've only went to like one or two shows with Chris Williams back when I kind of started going to shows. Now it's a lot more frequent for me now. But yeah, Chuck Myers, he got some laughs throughout his set, but they weren't like all at the same time. So overall, I would say he was at 7.9 out of 10. I believe next up, the guy's name was L.J. Brown. First time seeing the guy. Um, I think he told a story about how he got put in a jail cell um, after failing a breathalyzer test. And he talked about how he felt proud of speaking Spanish, but he mentioned there was like a metal toilet in the middle of the jail cell that can only be used by all the male um, jailmates who gets held for like a day or so, holding cell. So he talked about that, and he talked about how he went to a restaurant and he felt all proud that because he only knew like 12 words in Spanish, he used that just to order confidently at a Mexican food place a burrito that had spicy shrimp, which, by the way, I guess for him, he's sensitive to spiciness, so he talked about how it's hot going in, hot going out, and how he mentioned he wished that he never had ordered that burrito that was super spicy, given that he was in a jail cell with a metal toilet in the middle for all the guys to see. So that was probably the biggest, funniest joke he had that I can remember. Um, I believe he was, I want to say like maybe an 8. He was an 8 out of 10. Um, and I believe there was Kevin Davis. Guy's pretty funny. He has this whole bit where he talks about how he became a Marine of comedy, but he was in ROTC. But I think he did some service actually, and then it wasn't in the Marines, obviously. Oh, and then he talked about how he has like a short memory, so he repeated a few things as part of his act, I think. So overall, I thought that Kevin Davis was a 8.5. Um, and I think there's somebody that went after him, but then the next person that I actually had to step out, so I came back and Pman was on stage, but I didn't get to hear any of them, and I got to be in the last, I guess the last 90 seconds of Pman set. But the thing is, I've seen Pman do a set quite a few times, so I don't think I was missing too much. So for that, I'm not going to really grade his set because I didn't really hear his whole set. If I were to grade it from base previous experiences, I probably would have just said a 9 out of 10. But he told me he did 10 minutes because the headliner was next, and the headliner was Patrick McGuire. I've seen the guy's name a few times now throughout Marquis in San Diego, and this is my chance to finally see him. The guy was pretty funny. I would say he was easily, um, let's say a 9 out of 10 or 8.95, 8.95. There we go. So he had a lot of things to say. The thing that kind of took away from that was he actually had asked people if he remembered. Does anybody in the crowd here remember that yellow sign that was posted on the freeway that you have a man, a woman, and a kid? They're shown being running across something, and that was your way of knowing like you need to be cautious of people running across the freeway, which is another way of saying illegals crossing the border stuff. So, but he said that when he first saw that sign, he didn't think it was like for the Mexican border or something. He actually thought it was more of a Canadian border problem because how many Mexican families do you see with just one man, one woman, and one kid? Everybody laughed. So he had that shirt with that yellow sign on it. So you flipped it over of another yellow sign on the shirt, and it had like a lot more people in the yellow sign because that's an accurate description of a Mexican family if that were to be the case that crosses the border. You had like 7 or 8 people in there, and then everybody laughed. So he had that shirt for sale. I didn't buy it, but I thought it was pretty cool to see it. But I don't know a lot of people who actually went up to him and bought it though. So, but overall, yeah, I would say Patrick DeGuire's set was an 8.95. Um, and I kind of hung around. I wanted to talk to Kevin Davis. Got to meet Mac Rome kind of for a picture with Patrick DeGuire. Got a picture with Chuck Myers. That was cool. We talked for a little bit. Got to talk to Doc Carter because I was wearing my Lakers cap, so we talked about the Lakers. Um, and then I got to talk to Pman and his wife. That was pretty cool talking to them. So it was a great night, and I headed back home. And then Sunday, I had gone to another comedy show. It was the Model Majority Asian American Comedy Show, produced by Natasha Collier. Um, I was actually invited to go to this one by both Natasha and Ray Lau. So glad I went. It was a good show overall. Andy Van was the host. He did his stand up. It was a little different from the last time I remembered, and he did some crowd work. And then he kind of wished he didn't do crowd work, obviously. But overall, I thought his set was 8.4 out of 10. Um, Next up, I believe it was Natasha Collier, and she had her usual jokes. It was probably one joke that she kind of changed a little bit, but it was still kind of the same joke, but she changed like the beginning, so it was a little bit different. But overall, I thought her set was an 8.5 out of 10. Same stuff about delicates and lingerie, secretary, administrative assistant, kind of the same stuff. Um, um, and then the next person that came up, I believe it was Ray Lau, and he kind of took his time with this set. So he talked about really three things as his joke. He talked about the whole he hates it when people have no shame when they're wrong about stuff. And then he talked about how he argued with his friend about white rice being unhealthy because there's zero point 0.1 grams of sugar. And then the guy made it seem like it's so bad, but then like zero point 0.1 grams. So this friend was like, okay, maybe. And then and then brown rice. And then he went back at him by saying, well, Brown rice is more unhealthy because you have all that chocolate in there, and chocolate is a lot of sugar. That got a big laugh for the people. Overall, like I said, it was about a 8.5 out of 10.